a game changer, an event, idea, or procedure that affects a significant shift in the current manner of doing or thinking about something. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Game Changer Podcast. Join me and all of my friends as we look over different topics, ideas, look over different events, popular subjects, not so much popular subjects, even random ideas that you probably wouldn't even think about. As we dive into these things, give our perspectives as well as give our opinions about these perspectives, we give you guys something a little bit more to think about. Why? Because we believe in changing the game. Why? Simple. Because we can. Welcome to the Game Changer Podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Strap yourselves in. It's going to be a wild and crazy ride. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the must-listen podcast of the Midwest. Welcome to the Game Changer Podcast. I am NateFNGreat, and I'm being joined here by the wonderfully fabulous and always so beautiful VicTori Belle. How's it going today on this beautiful day?
It's good. It's really good. Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
And guys, like I said on Facebook, you guys not only get a single helping of us, you get a double helping. We're doing not one, but 2 podcast episodes this week for your enjoyment. Happy 4th of July to a lot of you that are enjoying the festivities as well as the celebration of our independence as a great nation. Okay, maybe somewhat great, but that's a topic for a different time. So, this was kind of an interesting subject matter that was brought on by my co-host of the question of what if? What if there were certain things that happened during movies that would have made them better? What if these things went in a different direction? Would they become a better movie? Would they become less popular movie? Well, we're going to basically talk about a lot of movies, honestly. We kind of narrowed it down to about 10 each, but there's some that are going to definitely be very co-opt, I would say. Basically, what's going to end up happening is that we're going to be saying, hey, this would be a great movie if, and we're going to discuss what the issue is with this movie. So, Miss VicTori Belle, if you don't mind, I would like to start the list, if that's all right.
Go ahead.
All right, so, starting off, I actually have them ranked this time. It's not just one of those things where like, oh, I have this on here, but ranking doesn't matter. So, nope, this time around I got it. So, we're starting at number 10, Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. Now, while this movie was indeed entertaining, there was still quite a bit of it that probably could have made this a better movie. The main thing for me is that Home Alone 2 Lost in New York would be a great movie if they didn't rehash basically the same story. You basically see the same thing where Kevin McAllister, he ends up going to a random location, he's all alone, and the problem is that they try to pound in your head that, oh, well, he misses his family, he misses being with them. It's kind of one of those things where it's brought on way too soon, but it also feels so familiar. It's the same thing as what it was in the original. Now, I will say that a lot of the stunt work and a lot of the booby traps in this movie are definitely a lot more creative and a lot more entertaining than they were in the first one. But you also have to remember that, again, it's still the same movie, only it's in New York, per se. You got a woman who basically is the same way as the neighbor who is, sprinkling the salt, except now it's a bird lady in New York because apparently some women just are that strung up about birds. I don't know. It's really weird now that I think about it. Redeeming qualities of it do include the fact that we got Rob Schneider and Tim Curry involved, and you know me, I love me some Tim Curry in my movies. But again, it's still just a situation where it's the same story, it's the same deal, and it's basically the same situation where Kevin McAllister, he makes a wish, and all of a sudden, here comes, his mother, they're reunited, and they have a deeper appreciation of each other, somewhat No, not really. It's probably going to be the same thing for the third one. Oh, wait, the third one is a different cast? I stand corrected. This is the last time you'll see something like this with an original cast. But, yeah, so starting off here with Home Alone 2. Although it does go downhill from here. So, to be fair, Home Alone 2 it might be a rehash of a story. But at least it's still entertaining.
Wow. Yeah. I agree with you. Come on, if you make a second, third, fourth, make it different. Like, come on now.
Come on, damn. But, alright, VicTori Belle, what you got for your number 10?
So, I decided that my number 10 is just going to be encompassing uncompleted series.
Okay.
I hate it. If you start, I know that some people, I think there was a few people who are like, oh, why did they go all the way for 50 Shades of Grey, or why did they have 4 Twilight movies, or why this? I'm like, well, at least they freaking completed the series. I hate when you have a, trilogy that you know should be a trilogy, and they either stop or they putter out because it didn't do a good job. Like, that, to me, I get infuriated with. So just in general, if they don't complete a series and they start it, I get upset. I get why, especially if it doesn't make enough money. But that just always makes me mad.
Okay. Do you have at least a couple of examples to kind of further your case? Like, were there any series that kind of stand out to you that were kind of infuriating to you that didn't get completed?
I don't know if they were going to be complete series, but you know how some of the starting, I have things on my list that are kind of part of this, as in starting to do a Ninja Turtles, and who knows if they're going to finish the Ninja Turtles trilogy. Fantastic Four started. That was definitely going to be multiple movies, and it sucked that bad. And then, you know how Transformers, they did 3, and then what is going on, and where is this series even going? We don't even know. They also did this, it's I'm trying to think, it's like a angel, demon, warrior people. I forget what they're called, but I watched one, and I semi-liked it, and they haven't made another for 5 years. So it's one of those things. And, let's be real, one of the main things we've watched that we liked is Incredibles, and it took them 12 years to make a second, but you're like, wow, this should have been done yesterday. So I just, in general, that is just a general rule of mine, is that this could have been great, but if you actually made it the complete series, because then it would have finished and we would have been satisfied, versus being like, where's the next movie? So that's just a general rule, I thought, to just write.
Yeah, no, I could definitely see that, and I could definitely agree. It is very infuriating when you're just kind of getting into some of these things. It's kind of like if they were to do the Harry Potter series, and they start with the first one, it's like, okay, this is good, and then you kind of get on this roll where it's like, okay, they're doing another movie, then they did another movie, but then they stop at 3, and it's like, you have a few more books to go through. Why'd you stop? And maybe 10 years later, it's like, we're still waiting on that next movie. It's just very infuriating just to have that long wait, and sometimes that wait is just wasted because nothing happens.
Yeah, exactly. So I just series in general, complete them.
Fair enough.
So we're talking movies here, but just in general, I hate when they don't complete series, period.
Yeah, makes a fair point. All right, so we're at number 9, Nightmare on Elm Street. Now, I'm of course talking about the 2010 version that they had, the reboot, basically. I could go on and on about some of the previous movies that they had, where some of them were either just, too silly, or some of the characters were unlikable, or something like that. But Nightmare on Elm Street, the reboot, is the one that kind of stands out to me the most, because for me, as a fan of this series, I enjoy seeing the Freddy Krueger character. I enjoy seeing a bit of, the comedy that he brings, but also some of the unique kills that he brings into this. With this Nightmare on Elm Street reboot, it would be a great movie if it added something new. I mean, you honestly see this, and it feels like it's just another rehash. You don't really see anything different here, except for the fact that, well, we basically get they basically just say straight out, oh yeah, he's a pedophile. That's not something we need to know. We could actually just have one of those situations. Honestly, my buddy Max over on his channel, check it out on YouTube. He does a doctor. He does like this. Oh gosh, I'm trying to like a Doctor Story deal. I'm trying to remember exactly what it was, but he basically dissects certain horror movies and tells you how he would have made it better. And for this one of the things that they could have added here was that basically you still have that suspension of disbelief that he didn't do anything, where you could have had that added on where he's just, maybe he's killed because he's out of vengeance for them just treating him poorly or something like that. But in this, they just kind of did like a rehash. The only thing that was different about this was that the face was more quote-unquote lifelike. Some of the kills were more brutal. It was a lot more gorier, I think, than any of the other ones. But again, that's really it. There's nothing really added. It's kind of like the same thing. It's the same song and dance. When you have nothing added to a reboot, you see what ends up happening. When you have like a straight deal, it's just another movie. It's just one of those things where it's like, okay, this is here. It's probably just going to collect dust, or it's probably going to be a coaster for something.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I agree. I'm like, if you're going to reboot it, you better add something. We've talked about it before, though, too. Like, if you're going to do a live action and if you're not adding anything, then why are we watching it again?
It's very fair. All right, ball's in your court.
So I decided to go with Suicide Squad. This could have been a good movie if they chose a different villain. And I mean not all of the villains. I just mean like the main baddie that was versus all the other baddies. I think if they chose a more realistic human villain versus an all-powerful sorceress, or the Empress, you're like, okay, or Enchantress, sorry, I called her Empress. The Enchantress is someone who's all-powerful, is magical, so as we've spoken before, if any villain or hero is magical, you're like, I won't be able to tell you where their power line ends and grows, because I don't know. Like, there's no limitations on this villain or hero. What can and can't they do? I don't know. But I'll tell you what, Harley Quinn can't beat her. No. So if you wanted to do, like, they could have done any of the, like, they could have done Bane, or they could have done anyone that is a humanoid or a human person on Earth at this time that wants to maybe explode a bank or something, and that would have probably been a good movie.
Honestly, sums it up pretty good. I got nothing really to add on for that, so I guess we can move on. All right, so number 8. Now, this is something that my co-host definitely brought up earlier, so I'm going to reiterate it. The Transformers movies. For me, as a kid growing up, I loved watching the Transformers television series. They had different iterations of it. They have different animations for it. It was a lot of fun. And to hear that, hey, we're going to make it into a live-action deal, it's like, oh boy, this is going to be a lot of fun. First one, it's like, okay, this is pretty good. This is pretty good. Second one, it's like, oh no. Third one, what? Then we get to the fourth one.
Are we still even here?
And then we go on from there. So these movies had potential to be some of the best movies, honestly, and it would probably have been one of Michael Bay's greatest, achievements if he would have definitely brought that. And I'm not going to deny some of the explosions, some of the action sequences, they were great. But the problem is that some of them were just way too short, and they focused on other deals, like, oh, apparently we need to go look at Megan Fox's booty. Why? I don't know, because kids and boners or something like that. Oh, we need to focus on this deal. Why? So, for me, it would have been a great series. if they didn't focus too much on other important matters. I mean, it's literally like the Godzilla movies. You have giant monsters battling against each other. You don't really need human involved in this, and it turns out to be a spectacular movie. With the Transformers deals, it's a bunch of fighting robots. It writes itself. You don't need to have all these random storylines where it's just like, oh, what's Sam Witwicky going to do this time? Oh, they're broken up. How are they going to end up back together? Oh, he's trying to do this. We don't care about that. We really don't. We only care about the fighting robots. And hey, I liked the fact that they incorporated some originality to it, where they had some of the robots could transform into human form, or some of them were just like these little tiny deals that actually had some kind of personality and also were kind of humorous. But I mean, you remember the fact that some of these battles were either short-lived or they were just very anticlimactic because of the build-up. You kind of were just like, okay, this is happening. Okay, I should be excited. Yay, I should be happy. Oh, explosion. Okay. It's Optimus Prime and Megatron. Yeah, this is awesome. This should be... Oh, it's over? Oh. Why? Again, you focus on other important matters, it does take away from what truly matters. And that being, of course, giant robots fighting. That's all I really need to say about that.
Yeah, no, I'll go right to my next one, and I have Transformers too. I think that my what if would be, what if Michael Bay didn't direct it? Because then it would have been kind of a different, because he does have this, like, weird obsession with, like, Megan Fox or very attractive women being in slow-mo shots with the robots fighting over them or something. You're like, is this supposed to turn people on? Or we're trying to watch the robot fight? Excuse me, ma'am, can you sit down? Or what if no humans were involved at all? That would have been great. Like, almost like in Beast Wars and stuff like that in the cartoons, where it's just like pre-human existence that they're fighting in. I'm like, that was also one of my favorite parts of Transformers, the television series, is like Beast Wars, where they can turn into animals and stuff. I'm like, that was cool. Let's go back to that time.
I mean, honestly, like you said, less is more, in all honesty.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think we're both in agreement on this, so we can kind of move on from that.
Yeah.
So, number 7, Aladdin. No, I'm not talking about the original Aladdin, and I know I've kind of gone on a rant about this, so I'm going to kind of keep this short and sweet. Obviously, with the live-action Aladdin, we had high expectations, and we also had our worries going into this movie. Mainly, of course, the fact that Will Smith was playing the genie. Was he going to play his own role? Was he going to play the Robin Williams deal? That was not the problem, though. My main issue is that the fact that it had an anticlimactic climax. Yes, it sounds like a double standard, but it's true. I basically said it. Basically, after A Whole New World, it feels like the movie just slowly goes downhill. And there's even a point where it just feels like it just starts nosediving into the ground. I mean, we had a great climax with the original where they just decide, hey, we're going to have fun with this. We're going to say that, Jafar is this all-powerful sorcerer because he wished for it. Hey, he's going to make all these, like, witty puns where he's just like, oh, don't toy with me, boy. Things are unraveling fast. Do you get the point? I'm getting warmed up. And it's just one of those things where it's like, yeah, it's cheesy, but it's entertaining because he's basically saying, hey, I'm having fun. I know I'm going to win. There's nothing you can do about it. And we had him turning into a giant snake. And what do we get for the live-action Aladdin? A giant bird. Well, I mean, it's not voiced by Gilbert Gottfried, so that's a positive. But a giant bird...
That would have made it scarier.
Yeah. Kids were literally peeing their pants when they saw that. No, they weren't. They were just like, huh. They were all kind of confused. They were just like, okay. If you got little kids that are kind of scratching their heads about this, it's like, okay. But if you would have had a great climax, and honestly, you could have still done the same thing. I mean, yes, people aren't big fans of Jafar, but if he would have still done the same thing where he just decided, hey, I'm going to do all these deals. I'm going to turn your little monkey into a little toy. And, I mean, they do incorporate Carpet getting basically wrecked, which I thought was actually kind of heart-wrenching, actually. It was like, no, not Carpet. They actually kept that part. Oh, boy. But just of him doing this whole deal where he's like, ooh, I can make people float. Look at me doing my Pennywise impression. Yeah, that's great. And then, of course, we get the final deal where he's like, oh, I'm going to be a more powerful being. And then Genie's like, okay, so you're basically wishing you were a genie. Okay. It's like, oh, it's frustrating. So I vented about it long enough. Definitely check out the Aladdin review if you want to hear more of the frustrations that brew during this. But if they would have had a better climax, maybe it would have kept my interest.
Nice. Yeah, so I'll just go into my Aladdin then. Yeah, so I had a few what ifs. So, what if, like, Jasmine wasn't even in the film? I was like, might have been more interesting. I might have liked it a little more. It would have been different, but I could have been really focused on the fact that it's an adventure of overthrowing a sorcerer, and that's it, you know? Or what if Jafar was actually Jafar? So, like how you said, you kind of said the same thing. I was like, yeah, that wasn't Jafar. He wasn't scary. He was not a threat. They were fine the whole movie, I felt. I'm going to get you guys by floating in the air. Wow. I'm like, dude, we're done. All right, bye. I'm leaving. Like, this guy's obviously not a villain. He's fine. And, like, you know, now he all of a sudden wants to marry Jasmine. So, okay, we're good. Bye.
Because he wants to show that he can be torturous to the Sultan for calling him number 2 for so many years. Just shut up. Just, no. I mean, it was kind of one of those things where at the end it was like, oh, now it makes sense because now it comes full circle. Everything makes the...
Yep, nope. No, they did not. It didn't make sense. It was all stupid, and we were mad.
Yeah, we're going to move on from this movie. So we go to number 6, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. So for this one, I think a lot of people have difference of opinions on this. Now, some people may have not liked the fact that Johnny Depp was involved in this. Maybe they didn't like the fact that maybe Tim Burton was directing this, so that didn't really add too much onto this. So the thing that I would have a big if about it is that this could be a great movie if they didn't change the story. I mean, you look at basically the original, and it's kind of weird because it's Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, but it focuses more on Charlie. For this one, it's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but they focus more on Willy Wonka. I'm sorry, but I think that if you would have just kept this whole deal where you didn't have all this exhibition of, hey, this is what happened basically with Willy Wonka's life. This is how he came to be, and blah, blah, blah. You could have told those kind of stories, you know, with just the whole Grandpa Joe deal, and that would have been fine. But no, they just decided, hey, we're going to focus more heavily on Willy Wonka here. He's going to have this weird relationship with his dad, who is a dentist. Oh, that makes sense, because, you know, he doesn't like cavities, and sugar creates cavities, and every single thing in between. It got to be so irritating. For me, I think that infuriates me more than the whole Johnny Depp deal. Yes, I know he's playing his own Willy Wonka. There's some moments where he is kind of entertaining, but he doesn't exactly embrace the Gene Wilder deal, let's face it. But if they just kind of kept that same feeling, just don't change the story. Don't make it all about this character that apparently we need to find out what the heck happened with him. No, we don't need to know these things. We just want to still have that, you know, great majestic majesty of going into the chocolate factory and just dealing with that. We don't need to see, you know, how the Oompa Loompas came around. Nobody asked for that. It was just one of those things where it's like, oh, hey, they came from Loompa Land, and, you know, they just told us that. They didn't say, like, oh, well, we need to captivate this for the kids. Let's actually create a Loompa Land. It was another one of those things where it just got to be pretty infuriating, but it is one of those things, again, where it's like, Johnny Depp was actually not the reason why I did not like this movie. It's actually the story.
Yeah, that definitely, it just got weirder and weirder. That's kind of what I felt like. It just, you out-weirded the first one, and the first one was pretty, not the first one, the original, was pretty weird, but still, like, kind of had a lighthearted, fun message, where this one got dark and was like, this is super weird, and it's evilish, and I don't like it. Like, it's making me uncomfortable.
The first one had a kind of charm that was unmatchable, and this one had very little to no charm.
Yeah.
But, alright, so balls in your court. What you got?
I like to say the X-Men movie franchise could have been really good if they just stuck with the 90s X-Men. So, period.
I mean, are you referring basically to the, like the animated series that they had going out, or was there something else that came out during the 90s?
Yeah, the 90s X-Men series. They could have easily just went off of how good that series was and what mutants they really stuck to focus with. And if they decided to just like, hey, let's go with, the Elite Six, or, there was probably like 8 or 9 eventually that came in that were all really good, fun characters that had meaning for the X-Men to be there. They could have really had a strong, like, maybe even whole series. Like, it could have literally gone for like 7 or 8 movies of continuous things going on in X-Men land. But they decided to jump around time zones and try to really milk Wolverine as much as possible. Poor guy. He has sore nipples now. Yeah.
Couldn't have put it better myself. Alright, guys, so we're going to take a small little commercial break, and then when we come back, we will be narrow it down. We're down to the top 5 of the biggest what-ifs when it comes to these movies. How could they possibly screw these up? Well, you're going to have to wait and see. So stay tuned, you guys. We'll be right back with a short little message, starting off with a nice commercial for some good friends over at Wrestle Addict Radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, introducing the Wrestle Addict Radio Network.
Hey, what's up, you guys? What is going on, everybody?
What up, fam?
Hey, it's me.
What up, Oozes?
What's up, guys? This is the Monday Night Delight.
Are you looking for a network that brings you all things pro wrestling? Then look no further. Wrestle Addict Radio brings you a varied source of wrestling content.
What's going on, guys? This is Willie T.
My name is Mr. Fretz.
This is your resident Smart Slayer.
Search for Wrestle Addict Radio on all major podcast platforms, and be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode.
Buzz, guys. My name is Kate Murphy of the Kings of the Ring podcast, and you are listening.
And you're listening.
And you're listening. And you are listening.
And you are listening.
Get ready for a war, because you're listening.
Come join the war each and every week as we fight to keep wrestling real.
What's up, everybody? This is King Ricky Rose, and you are listening to Wrestle Addict Radio.
Hey guys, this is NateFNGreat. Hey, have you ever wanted to be a champion but can't seem to really find the money and the time to get a championship belt? Well, you know who's a really good friend of mine? AJ from AJsBelts.com. These guys have a large assortment of championship belts, from classic belts to the modern day belts to championship belts that you would not even believe. And guys, like I said, they work with you very well. With an awesome layaway program, there is no way that you can beat these guys' prices as well as these guys' deals, especially when you can give them a little bit of money every now and then until you can get that championship gold. Coming from a guy who's a champion and a game changer, I'm indeed NateFNGreat. I'm representing AJsBelts.com, proud friends of the Game Changer podcast.
This is your pool party captain, Randy Fitzsimmons, and you're listening to the Game Changer podcast. Pew pew!
Alright guys, we are back. This is the Game Changer podcast. I'm NateFNGreat. This is VicTori Belle. Alright, so we are back on the biggest what-ifs when it comes to movies. So, going into number 5. So for number 5, I have Inspector Gadget. Oh, Matthew Broderick, we meet again, my friend. So, obviously Inspector Gadget wasn't exactly one of the most culturally phenomenal TV series when a lot of people just, while watching it. I think that a lot of kids that watch it were just kind of like, oh, it's kind of something just to watch. Okay, this kind of has some nice deals here. I mean, people remember Inspector Gadget, they remember Penny, they remember Brain, they remember the evil mastermind, Dr. Claw. And they had just a kind of charm to them that was really good. Fast forward to the live-action movie, they picked probably the less charming person to play Inspector Gadget. I'm sorry, but that was the main thing, was that the character for this was uninteresting. When you have a movie, you kind of want to have the main character be something that people are going to be drawn to. Now, obviously, some people could say, well, their name should be enough. Yes and no. There's some people, such as, Bradley Cooper, Dave Bautista, Chris Pratt. They are big names, but they also know how to act. They know how to basically create characters with whatever they're working with. With Matthew Broderick, it kind of feels like he's in the same deal as a Will Smith, where you don't exactly see him playing anybody else besides Matthew Broderick. And to be honest, it definitely shows with Inspector Gadget. He's just very bland. He's not exactly very exciting. We get to the points where, he's got the Gadgetmobile, and we should be excited, but at this point we're kind of worn out, where it's like, well, we kind of don't care about this, so what else could possibly go worse? Oh, they have a talking Gadgetmobile. Well, you managed to really find a way to tick me off now. It's one of the few times where I actually say that I liked the sequel to this more than the original, but then again, the original didn't really give me much, so to be fair, if they would have picked somebody else besides Matthew Broderick to play Inspector Gadget, I would have been okay with it, but since they did, that's my main issue with it.
Nice. You didn't like the main actor. That's always a problem. If you don't like who the main actor is, it's going to be a lot of negativity there for you.
Oh yeah, we've got documentation of that, so.
Yes, we do. We really do.
All right, so Miss VicTori Belle, what do you got for your number 5?
Number 5, I have the first of the beginning of the trilogy of the new Godzilla set. So I have not seen Godzilla King of the Monsters yet. Heard good things from some people, heard bad things from critics, but I don't think critics always know what Godzilla is all about. But the first movie, what if we didn't have all the humans again? It would have been so much better. Because the first movie, you didn't get to even see Godzilla until like an hour in. Like, can we just please have Godzilla come out and do something really cool? Because it's called Godzilla, and like, that's all I want. If the movie's called Godzilla and I don't get a Godzilla an hour in, you're losing me. You're losing me. And we had a lot of, I think they tried to make us care about, I think it was 6 or 7 different storylines. I can't follow that many people, especially in a Godzilla movie. I don't care enough. I don't want to care about them. I want a scientist that tell me that Godzilla is coming and everybody should run and scream because everyone's going to die. And then I want like maybe one family that's like, whoa, Godzilla's taped us. We're like, whoa, crazy. That's it. So the first movie was not good.
No, I definitely do agree with you. I think that, yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't think I could really put it any better than that.
Yeah, but you know what's cool about this one is that even though the first movie was so awful, they are finishing it. Like they're going on, so they're not completing the series. So I do like that, and the second one, fan-wise, was notably better in fans' opinions.
Well, gee, I wonder why. Let's see here. What do they do here? Let's see. We take off a lot of the human deal, take out a lot of human emotion. Now we got somebody that's going to try and take over the world by using the monsters. Okay, I mean, that at least ties in with the monsters. But we also have these monsters all basically going crazy on each other. Yeah, gee, it's a really mystery why this one was more successful than the first one.
Perfect.
Alright, so now we are down to number 4. The Master of Disguise. Oh boy, where do I even begin with this movie? well, let's just go into the main issue I have with this, is that this had potential to be a great movie, in my opinion, if they didn't have an annoying as fuck person playing the role. I mean, Dana Carvey, bless the dude's heart. This was not one of those roles that was really something that he would just, This was one of those things where it even is noted on Wikipedia. I'm going to tell you this right now. They have like these bookmark deals. In the content section of Wikipedia, let me put it to you right now for Dana Carvey. Career, early career, Saturday Night Live, after SNL, after The Master of Disguise. They literally have the fact that this movie was so bad that it had to be highlighted within his career prospects. Again, this had potential to be something great. You had something actually good. I mean, my God, those commercials that they had with Priceline, with William Shatner and Kaylee Cuoco, these two literally did that whole, Master of Disguise deal. It was entertaining when they did it, but they only did it like so lightly. And when they had that final deal where Coco basically is dressed up like it's all basketball player, I mean, that's funny, but it's not one of those things where it was like in Master of Disguise where he, had some subtle changes and then he did like this random deal where he's just dressed up like a turtley guy, or he's dressed up like a woman and he's just being more and more annoying. The character is so unlikable. You're literally thinking to yourself, how is this even a movie? How did this even happen? Who in their right man decided that this was a movie that needed to be on the big screen? Oh, Happy Madison. Thank you, Adam Sandler, for giving us another turd bomb.
So what if Happy Madison didn't say yes?
Yeah, I think that's probably the best way of putting it.
I have a few of these that I'm like, I don't think they're not savable. Oh,
yeah,
funny.
I also I just re-looked at the poster that they had for this. It says, 1,000 faces, ... and not a single clue. Right.
Wow.
Right. Yeah, no, disguise is the limit. No, my tolerance is the limit right now, and it's very, very, very small when it comes to this movie. All right, what you got next?
I'll stick with turtles. So I decided to pick the new reboot of the Ninja Turtles. Like I said, I'm gonna start off saying the exact same thing I said for Transformers. Like, what if Michael Bay? No. What if? What if they were like, maybe we'll try someone else with a Hasbro toy movie franchise? They're like, no, but Michael Bay does Transformers. You can't take it from him. And then they're like, okay, sure, we'll give it back to Michael Bay. All right, I'm gonna throw in Megan Fox. And we're like, no, he ruined it again.
It's like, no, it's gonna be different. It's gonna be different.
Yeah,
We're gonna have more.
Be so different this time.
We're gonna have realistic turtles. How realistic are we talking here? They're gonna be like huge. So like Master of Disguise kind of huge. Yeah. Wow. Okay. And okay, so I mean, this would be kind of interesting. I mean, turtles are kind of huge anyway. I mean, is there at least some good voice acting? Yeah, we got Will Arnett as not Baxter Stockman. Oh shoot, what's the name of the guy from? Oh gosh, I'm trying to remember who the hell the lackey was for. Vern. That's right. Vern. That's right.
Yeah, Will Arnett is Vern. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, maybe we got some other people to play as well. I mean, we got Danny Woodburn and Tony. Well, actually, Tony Tapula playing Splinter. Oh, okay. This might be kind of interesting. We got Noah Fisher playing Michelangelo. Okay. Alan Richardson playing Raphael. Okay. Jeremy Howard playing Donatello. All right, I can deal with that. Johnny Knoxville playing Leonardo. You ruined the series for me, damn it! You have the guy who plays Jackass literally being the leader of the Turtles? Yeah, no, not happening.
Does he really play Leonardo? I didn't think he played.
He voiced
Johnny
Leonardo.
Knoxville?
Yep. If I guarantee you will never watch that series again without hearing Johnny Knoxville as the leader of Leonardo. He got replaced in the second movie, but in the first one, I just heard that right off the bat. I'm like, please tell me that's not Johnny Knoxville. Please tell me that's not Johnny Knoxville.
That makes it even worse. Like, who? Like, why? Why did they do that? Ninja Turtles is such a good series. Like, they need. I would like them to try again because I don't hate the first movie. It was like I'm trying not to hate you. I'm trying not to hate you. And then the second movie happened, and I'm like, now you're just trying to make me hate you. Like, you really are trying to get goofy and have stupid, weird people in it, and, like, you know, the two Animorphs that they had, you're like, okay, this makes no sense. Like, these aren't humans that turn into turtles. They're turtles mutated. So you can't do, like, oh, I'm sorry, I hated that they're like, ugh, we're not talking about it. We're just saying, what if Michael Bay didn't have control, and what if they redo this whole series? Okay, cool.
Yeah, let's move on from that, because the less we say more about the series, the better. Because I honestly, you hit all the nails on the head. So we're just beating into a dead corpse right now.
Yeah, but we both obviously like Ninja Turtles.
Oh, of course we do.
That's why we care.
This is true. So we go on to number 3, which would be, for me, Star Wars: The Phantom Menace. This was where people started getting a little sour with Star Wars. I mean, the story itself was very unmemorable. They added political issues to this where, okay, you got a little kid who is basically going to be the next Jedi, supposedly. Okay, I mean, at least he's not going to say something stupid. Well, this is pod racing. I stand corrected. Well, I mean, it's still got the Force. Oh, the Force is powered by midichlorians. What? You literally take the one thing that people enjoy most about this, and you just decide, hey, there are people that are not, that just don't have, there are people that have it because of these little micro deals. What? Why? I mean, literally, you had in the first 3 movies, it was just the Force. There was nothing about there being like, oh, hey, it was created by like these bacteria deals. It was like, no, the Force is what gives the Jedi its powers. It's one of those things that you have to kind of train to do. It's like, okay, so it's kind of one of those things where you're using the mind, basically. Okay, that's kind of cool. No, you're basically powered by little tiny germ cells or stuff like that. Why do you hate me, Star Wars? I mean, there's no way that you can make this even better. Hello, Misa Jar Jar Binks. I stand corrected. Where's my shotgun? So, literally, the main thing is the fact that they added too much to an already great story, and they decided, hey, we need to kind of tune in some of these finer things. Hey, it's great that we know where, Obi-Wan Kenobi came from, even though, Ewan McGregor definitely did better things here, and honestly, might have been the one saving grace from this entire prequel trilogy. It was nice to see where Anakin Skywalker came from, even though he first started off as kind of this weird kind of kid deal that said that the woman looked like Fretz. She's older than him. There's no logic in this movie. How is it that they seem like they're the same age? Does she have like some kind of fountain of youth that we don't know about? I'm sorry, but that's bugging the hell out of me right now. So, okay, back to Phantom Menace. Added too much exposition to a great story. Didn't need to be there.
Also, what if Darth Maul never died? Boom. Already better.
I mean, to be fair, that would have been kind of cool to see Darth Maul and Count Dooku kind of team up against the Jedi. Oh, gosh.
Right? Oh my gosh, no, Darth Maul is amazing. That's why in the fan fiction and stuff, they're like, actually, we're going to go with he survived. And we're like, that's probably smart, because he was literally one of the coolest characters, played by Ray Park. within the Star Wars realm. Like, you introduce this crazy looking dude who's doing flips and kicks, and like he's the baddest of all the baddies, and boom, dies in the first like 5 minutes of the fight that they have. Almost like that was awful. Like, just cut in half.
It's like, what a way to die, but also what a way to leave. I mean, probably not since the whole Boba Fett deal in Return of the Jedi have people been so vastly disappointed in that performance.
Right, like you put him on a pedestal and then you literally cut the pedestal in half. Like, that's not cool.
No, I definitely do agree with you there. All right, so what is your number 3, my wonderful co-host?
My number 3, I will have Maleficent, like
Really?
not the new one, or the new one, because what if they gave like it a real bad guy, or what if they didn't have Maleficent kiss her to wake her up, because that was really weird, and she needed to be a better bad person when they needed a bad guy. Like you said, like, you don't want the bird doing the work, you want the bad guy doing the work. Like, they did it twice on us, Nate.
They did.
They turned her raven into the semi-dragon, and then they turned what's his name, Iago, into the
giant bird
hawk dinosaur thing.
The rise of side characters. Nobody cares.
Exactly. So what if Maleficent didn't kiss Sleeping Beauty? Because why is that happening? That's really weird.
That was Michael Bay's contribution to the film, but he's not credited, and I truly believe that somehow he got a part in that.
Who?
Michael Bay.
Yeah, Michael Bay. Did you have the 2 women kissing? And then, yeah, what if, like, they actually gave her full powers? That would have been cool. But that's why they are making another one. It kind of is giving us a feel that it might be a little more powerful, really cool. We'll see. We're not for sure. But the first one it was doing really good up until the end of, like, let's not have the prince kiss her. Let's have Maleficent do it. Then I'm over here like, what?
Just so we can have that emotional moment of, oh, hello, little beastie. It's just like, why?
Yes. Yeah, it was just a lot. And they tried to do, like, levels. Like, oh, like, it's a mother's love. She's not a mom, and also, calm down.
Right.
That wasn't what love's true kiss should have been it, not your mom isn't your true love. I'm sorry. Or maybe it is, and I can't help you then.
No.
My mom's my true love. Like, oh gosh.
No, I definitely hear where you're coming from. Alright, so we are at number 2 for both of us. For my number 2, I have Slender Man. Now, obviously, if you heard my rant and rave last year, you guys, I did basically say that this was the worst movie that came out last year. And it still stands true, and it's still one of the worst movies I've ever seen, to the point where I immediately wanted to walk out halfway through the movie. But me being a glutton for punishment thought, hey, maybe there's some redeeming qualities, and then after it's over, I want my 2 hours of my life back, Hollywood. If you pay me in $2,000, maybe that'll make things better, but that just... So, there are different, different deals where people are saying, they should have done this, they should have done this. My main thing is that this would have been a successful movie had they focused on the content that made it so popular. Now, obviously, there was a lot of, controversy, there was a lot of legal issues that they had to deal with, especially dealing with the 2 girls that tried to murder another girl because they said Slender Man told them to. Which I find that hard to believe because Slender Man doesn't even talk. So if you somehow can read his mind, then you're kind of... I don't understand this. So I put it as one of those situations where if they would have focused on the content, like maybe how they did with the video games, where they decide, hey, make it like a game for the actual creature. Don't have this lore where it's like, oh, it's a demon. Oh, it hunts children. It does this, does that. For... no reason whatsoever other than just because. Yeah, that's going to really kill the movie. if you would have just had a situation where, yeah, it felt like the game, but you actually had that deal where they just picked up the paper, I would have been kind of interested in that, because you had to collect, 6 pages basically to escape the Slender Man, and then you had to get out of the area. Honestly, it's kind of one of those situations where you don't know when he's going to come out. He could probably come out when you grab the first page. He could probably come after you when you grab the third page. Just when you're about to reach that final point. No, he gets you at the last minute. It's just one of those things where it's like, okay, you could have done something like that. Honestly, it might have been a pretty good contender against, the whole Saw series, in all honesty, because now you have another character that's saying, yeah, I'm doing this to prove a point. For this, maybe it's because Slenderman is just having fun with this. He's like, I like to see my victims suffer. It's one of the worst things that you could see in a movie, but it's still one of those things where it's like, okay, he's got a motivation for it. Instead of just having this deal where it's like, oh, he's just doing this just because. That's the laziest writing that you could ever have for this. And honestly, again, combine that with unlikable characters, a confusing storyline, this made it for one of the worst movies ever. I would definitely say that. And honestly, I think that's what's going on with this movie, is that it feels like I'm going into these are some of the worst movies I've ever seen. And it shows. It definitely shows. But we're not even at number 1, which probably is going to be one of the more infuriating stories. But before we get into that, we still have a number 2 from my lovely co-host. So what have you got as your so close but yet so far from number 1?
Yeah, so my number 1 is actually redeemable, and that's kind of why I was like, okay, I'm saving it for number 1. But my number 2 is my worst movie of all time, which is I forget what year it came out. I don't even want to look it up. But it's Fantastic Four, the new one, not with Jessica Alba and all them. It's the one they were like, oh, let's reboot the series one more time. This literally is the most lazy movie I could not believe it. I can't believe how bad it was, especially this was at a time where, like, all the Marvel movies were really good. Like, we were like, oh, like, all the superhero movies are dominating. This is great. Oh, man, here comes Sony with Fantastic Four. And the biggest tank of all superhero movies ever. So, I could say, what if they had good makeup artists? What if they had good PAs? What if they had good editors to catch all the inconsistencies within the movie? Like, what if they actually had an ending? Like, what if, like, there was just so much wrong, like, with this movie that it's almost not redeemable, and that's why they literally scratched it out of existence. And Michael B. Jordan is now part of a really good series in the Marvel universe, which is, he was a baddie among baddies of Black Panther. And his character is one of the most likable bad guys that has reigned in Marvel. So it's really cool. Good for him to tank so hard in one superhero franchise, which is technically still Marvel, and get picked up by Disney's Marvel to be like, hey, we'll give you a second try, buddy.
Yeah, and to kind of basically give you guys a perspective as to how bad this movie was, it has in here at the 36 Golden Raspberry Awards, it won categories for Worst Director, Worst Prequel, Remake, Ripoff or Sequel, and Worst Picture. What does that tell you about this movie, guys?
Yeah.
What does that really tell you?
That was really, like, that is one of those movies, like, I basically, like, stopped watching it. I had to.
It's one of those things where it's like, thank God that Disney bought 20th Century Fox's franchises.
Yes.
Because now we might get something good. And hey, if we get a Hugh Jackman deal in Wolverine, I'm not saying he should play Wolverine, but if he kind of makes a sporadic appearance in there, at least it's kind of one of those things where it's like, yeah, he's kind of just passing the torch. It's fine. But it's also Hugh Jackman. Hugh Jackman's awesome. I'm sorry, but...
Oh, Hugh Jackman is awesome. We love Hugh Jackman.
Shout out to the Hugh. All right. All right, so now we are down to the finals, guys. Number 1. The biggest what if for my side movie here would be The Amazing Spider-Man 2. oh, does this hit a core for me, especially considering the fact I'm such a huge Spider-Man fan. Alright, put this in perspective. First Amazing Spider-Man was okay. I mean, the most recognizable scene in probably a lot of Marvel movies is the whole library scene where Stan Lee is literally just pouring coffee and setting up books, and in the background there's Spider-Man and the Lizard. Literally they have that, and it's like, okay, they brought something entertaining to the deal. Is Andrew Garfield a good Spider-Man? I have my opinions on him. I think I've said that once or twice before, if not consistently. But this was literally a few years after we had that, Amazing Spider-Man 3, where a lot of people are just like, oh, no. And after rewatching it, I'm kind of a little more lenient on the movie, where it's like, okay, there's some redeeming qualities about it. But then, of course, I think it was maybe like a year later, they're like, oh, well, here's a reboot. Why? Okay. Oh, to retain the rights. Okay. So you don't want Disney's Marvel to have it. Oh, okay. So you want to rob us of the opportunity of having Spider-Man in the Avengers. Okay, well, let's just see how well this does. Leave the first one. Okay, this is decent. What happens with the Amazing Spider-Man 2? Probably one of the biggest piles of hot trash you will ever see. And it goes for the biggest what if, is that it focused too much on being a love story. Because apparently they did do a good job of telling that in the first movie. They were just like, oh, we're going to incorporate some factors that, hey, Gwen Stacy and Spider-Man, they are, a kind of an item. And we're going to kind of really hit the hammer on that in this one. Yeah, the original trilogy didn't do that. They were literally not doing that whole deal where they're just like, oh, hey, we need to hammer the fact that that Spider-Man and Mary Jane are supposed to be an item. We know that. We've read the comics. We've seen the TV series. We know this shit. And this is just one of those things where they were hammering home. Why? Because for the inevitable. Because Gwen Stacy was going to die. It's just one of those things where like, well, we screwed up on this. We gotta show how much Gwen Stacy means to Peter Parker, so that way when we get to the climax, it's much more hitting. No, it wasn't that much more hitting. And one of the small reasons why is because of one of the stupidest things that they could have done was when they had, Gwen Stacy falling, and Spider-Man does that whole, spiderweb shoot deal. He shoots it out, and what happens? Oh, that little web there. It slowly turns into a hand. One of the stupidest things you could have ever had for CGI animation. And trust me, I've seen the Minions movie. Just, why? Why was this such a focus on the love story? This did not need to happen. If I wanted to watch a love story, I probably would watch 50 Shades. Okay, bad example, but you get my point. Just, why did this need to happen? Not to mention the fact that it's another one of those situations where you stacked on way too many characters on here. You didn't give so much exhibition for Harry Osborn. He was just kind of there. He was like, oh, hey, yeah, we're buddies, quote unquote. Hey, I need Spider-Man's blood. Yeah, I'm not giving it to you. Okay, I want to kill Spider-Man now. Oh, hey, I know, it's you, Peter Parker. And then to end it on the worst cliffhanger ever, because literally you can watch any of the Amazing Spider-Man 2 trailers, and that final scene where it's with him and Rhino, that's in the trailer. That's their cliffhanger. It's literally one of those things where it's the stupidest thing. So there's a lot of things here, but the fact they focused it so much on a love story, it was just so infuriating. It's so dumb. Again, for me as a Spider-Man fan, it was one of the few times where I'm just like, I hate this movie. I might actually hate Spider-Man at this point. So thank you, Andrew Garfield, for doing that. But hey, at least you did Hacksaw Ridge, so you got some redeemable qualities for yourself, my good sir. So it's just, it's infuriating. They just added way too many characters in here, and I think that when they put in Jamie Foxx as Electro and they just didn't know what to do with him, it made it even more infuriating. But the ice cream on the cake was the fact that, hey, we need to hit this fact that they love each other, even though they're not smart enough to figure it out. Yeah, we're smart enough to figure it out. We know what happens. Again, we read the comic books. We've seen the TV series. We know what the hell is going to happen. So you don't need to hit that. And you probably could have made it a much more shocking situation where, that death scene could have hit it a lot more. But nope, you just decided we're going to focus more on their relationship than on the actual movie. Okay, I'm done ranting. I'm done.
That's very interesting because I hear a lot of mixed reviews about, one, Andrew Garfield being Spider-Man. A lot of people who I respect in the comic book world actually really enjoy him as Spider-Man. And it's an interesting conversation that I feel like we could maybe have another time. But I agree with you with the whole, like... I think the biggest issue with that movie was the fact that they threw too many great villains into one movie, and we're like, dude, how am I supposed to believe that Spider-Man is ready for all this? He's not. He just a year ago got these powers, and now he can verse the the Return of the Green Goblin. Electro and the Rhino and all these other... there was another guy, too, wasn't there?
There probably was, but...
Right, and there was just too much. There was just so much going on, and like you said, we already knew Gwen Stacy was going to die. I actually thought that her death was one of the most morbid comic book deaths I've ever seen, on the big screen. So for me, I was like, oh my, I didn't expect her to die the way she died. I was like, oh, they basically had him save her, but she broke her neck and died. Oh, snap, because he did save her, and then you just hear, you're like, oh, he missed. And that was, to me, that was one of the most morbid comic book deaths I've ever seen. So, yeah, they made it a huge deal. But yeah, I feel you. They wouldn't have had to reboot a complete Spider-Man series again if they didn't try to shove 5 movies into one.
Right. So I don't know if this is kind of like a villain, but there was actually appearance by Felicia Hardy. For a lot of people that are hardcore comic book fans, obviously know that is Black Cat. Apparently, she kind of makes a small cameo in this movie, but it doesn't seem like they really did anything with her. So,
right, exactly. But it was done. They murdered the whole Amazing Spider-Man series there. Spider-Man had a trilogy, good job. Amazing Spider-Man couldn't even make it to a trilogy, and now we have Spider-Man Homecoming and stuff like that. So yay!
Yeah. So thank you, Columbia Pictures, for this wonderful, wonderful dumpster fire of a movie. I know some people will be like, no, it's one of the best movies of all time. I stand by what I said. I'm sorry, but I'm a Spider-Man fan. I enjoyed the original trilogy. The Amazing Spider-Man movies, I kind of want to just bleach them from my mind at this point. But then we get into, of course, the newer ones with Tom Holland, and it definitely shows that they do it so much better. So, but anyway, that being said, Miss VicTori Belle, what is your number one biggest what if when it comes to these movies?
This might just be a total kind of how you had, maybe it's an actor thing for me that I hate. And I agree with that statement. There's just some actors you can't stand. War of the Worlds, to me, was one of the biggest, really cool movies of, its time. And even I know Tom Cruise people don't really always like Tom Cruise, but he dominated. He can dominate some roles, and you're like, wow, he made me care for this family, this role, everything. But my what if is definitely what if Dakota Fanning wasn't in the movie. Dakota Fanning had her, young actor years that I did not mind her, but I think she got too big for her britches. I think she was supposed to be playing a younger kid. She looked like she was 13, 14 in this movie. It was very distracting. She screamed every 5 minutes. Wanted to turn, I could not almost watch the movie, but it was so good that I powered through her screaming. Hated her, and then ever since that I did not like her. And every movie I've seen her in, I despised her. Even the Twilight series, when I saw Dakota Fanning pop, I was like, no! They're trying to really make me hate it now. They're really trying hard. They want her to die. Like, please, what is going on? But yeah, I think the what if is that I started my hate for Dakota Fanning in War of the Worlds, which is a great, kind of like alien invasion movie, and that ends with a really cool concept of like aliens could all die because of a small virus that humans were immune to. But yeah, that started my hate for Dakota Fanning.
Yeah, honestly, I'm looking at a lot of these. I'm looking at like her filmography right now, and I'm kind of looking at it and thinking, okay, so she did this, she did this, she did that. Okay, that's oh gosh, yep, she was a part of this, and oh god, I actually did forget the fact that she was also in Lilo and Stitch for a time.
Oh wow.
Good Lord Almighty. And for a lot of people that want to relive this deal, she was also in Cat in the Hat, one of the worst movies I will ever see.
Yes. Oh, jeez. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. She was the reason why everybody loved that movie. No, she was one of those things where it's like, I kind of want to slap this girl for being such a little. I'm trying to think of like a very PC way of putting it, but I don't. Too many things that go through it, but
yeah, just say annoyance, a little annoyance.
Okay, fair enough.
She's just like one of those people that get on the screen and you're like, ugh, like I don't like you for some reason. Why? I don't know. I would like to figure it out, but I take my animosity towards her and I also throw it at her little sister who is in Maleficent. I'm like, she's not a Sleeping Beauty. She reminds me of Dakota Fanning. It is her little sister.
Oh, and I think we also have to mention this. Remember when we did the review for Ocean's 8?
Yes.
Yep, she was in that too. So that might be another reason why we didn't like it.
Dakota Fanning was in that?
She was in there. She was in Ocean's 8.
What? I don't even remember her being in that. But I also didn't really like the movie and got really bored. So I must have subconsciously felt her presence and hated that movie.
It might have been the case. We have found the Matthew Broderick for Miss VicTori Belle.
Yeah, dude. Oh, that's funny. I don't know why though. Do you like Dakota Fanning?
She's not on my high list of people I'd want to meet or watching the movie. I mean, like I said, I'm looking at her random filmography on here. I'm seeing all these and I'm like, what the hell are these movies? There's literally a movie called The Secret Life of Bees. What the hell? Oh, okay, she was in one good movie. And that was in 2009, Coraline. She was in that. So, one redeeming quality. But that's not enough to, have us overlook the endless amounts of poo that she's been in. I'm sorry, just no. Alright guys, so we're going to wrap up this edition of the Game Changer Podcast. This has been the biggest what-ifs when it comes to movies. This has actually been a really fun deal. Getting the chance to actually think about, okay, well, how would these movies be better? Would they be better if we did this? Would they be better if we did this? Would this work out more? But yeah, it was a lot of great wholesome fun here for the most part. We've discovered a lot of different things about ourselves, so that's kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, this will be interesting. So now I have some ammunition where I could just say Dakota Fanning, and that's just literally where she's like, don't talk to me. It's just going to be a straight up ignore. I'll probably get no message from her for 3 days. And I'll just be like, I realized what I said, and I apologize. It's like, it's okay. Dakota Fanning. 3 days of silence. But alright.
Make it even worse and just send me a series of her screams.
Oh, for the love. I believe in cruel and unusual punishment, and that just seems like the death sentence there of the eardrums. So I don't think I'll do that. I'll send it to somebody that really annoys me or something like that. So if you're on my Facebook page, expect a Dakota Fanning scream. We'll see what happens. But alright guys, so we'll wrap up this edition of The Game Changer. Like I said, be sure to check us out on our Facebook fan pages, especially my co-host who does absolutely wonderful pictures on there. Definitely give her some likes, give her some comments, and be polite about it because, yeah, I'll be watching. And be sure to also check us out on Twitter at Real Effing Game for me, at Victory Clark 04 for her. Be sure to check us out on Spreaker.com as well as on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, YouTube, is also on SoundCloud. And guys, I'm also a part of a great wrestling group known as Wrestle Addict Radio, as you heard in the commercial. Definitely check those guys out. They're absolutely amazing. And I know that this week they already released Monday Night Delights. Gift of Podcast has already been released, so definitely check that out, as well as Nacho Mama's Soap Opera. Definitely check that out as well. Myself and Mr. Fretz, we will be getting our podcast going this Sunday, so definitely expect something cool. It's going to be a very fun-filled episode. So with that being said, for VicTori Belle, I've been NateFNGreat. Thank you so much for dealing with us on the biggest what-ifs of movies. We will talk to you guys later on this week in the next episode. Bye-bye.